Of course, the best was yet to come in February, during the All-Star Weekend in Houston, where the Jazz was center stage, getting the type of national exposure money just can't buy. Hot Rod Hundley stole the show, and a kiss during the Legends game in the Summit.
Rod Hundley will show some of his magic.
Hot Rod Hundley threw up a prayer and got no answer.
I'll say one thing, still got the kiss here, and I couldn't make a shot, but it inspired me to get some rebounds. That's the only thing I did after. Boy, I got tired. But I tell you what, I'm loving it. It's a great honor. I'm really happy I got to play.
Then, the next day in the Dome, it was Karl Malone's turn to grab the spotlight with an assist, or two, or three, from his buddy John Stockton, who gave the mailman a run for the money in the balloting for the All-Star Game's Most Valuable Player award. After it was all over, Malone was vowing to share the honor with his Jazz teammates. And considering Mark Eaton's 5 rebounds and numerous blocked shots, it was a Jazzy win indeed for the Western Conference.
Welcome back to Hitting the High Notes, the greatest moments in Utah Jazz history. We pick up the list now at number 8, the biggest comeback in NBA history. A Jazz team that eventually played in the NBA Finals came out flat at home against the Denver Nuggets. Utah trailing by 34 points. But what happened next was one of the most unbelievable halves in basketball history.
2 games later, the streak appears to be all but gone as the lowly Denver Nuggets come out unconscious in the Delta Center.
Bryant tipped the 3. Yes! My goodness!
Finding themselves down by 34 points at the break, the Jazz are left shaking their heads.
We were shell-shocked. Granted, we didn't play good defense, but I was calm and I said, you know, even if they went through a shooting drill with nobody on them, that's about what they probably shoot.
But NBA history begins to unfold in the second half.
Low to the mailman, turn in, score! Karl Malone! The Jazz are rolling!
I started believing it when we cut it from a 36 down to like 18. And you can start seeing the look in their face. They didn't want to take those shots, but they were still shooting the 3. Then all of a sudden we cut it down to 13.
Stockton holds, left corner to Horny, open shot, good! Hornacek!
We cut it down to 9.
Stockton drive the alley, underneath the Morris, reverse slammed up. Stockton to Morris.
Then we cut it down to 8 and then 4.
Now to Stockton, Jazz run. Stockton to the middle, to Shannon Anderson, hammered up. The young rookie, streaking in for the right side.
And I was like, okay.
Hornacek holding to Stockton. Stockton, 12 seconds to Karl Malone. Down Russell, slam dunk, Don Russell. Unbelievable.
Man, I hate that game. And you know why I hate that game? Because I go to 38, 39 home games a year. There are a couple, you know, these days it's the TNT games, and in those days there'd be a couple conflicts, and I had family coming in from out of town. I didn't go to the game. If you notice, that was all low-angle video. The game wasn't on TV. Back in the 90s, they didn't televise every game like we have today. So I listened to Hot Rod call that on the radio, waiting for family to drive into town. I missed one of the all-timers.
Well,
I'm here for every 17-point blowout, but I miss just an all-time classic.
Well, that's a rarity. That doesn't happen that often in any sport, especially in basketball when you're down by that much. But, you know, you always hear coaches talking about play till you hear the buzzer sound, play as hard as you can, because you never know what can happen. And that was one of the instances where the Jazz did, and what a fantastic comeback.
Well, what a great lesson for anybody watching this show is to see a comeback like that when you know, especially in the NBA, it's a little easy because you got a 24-second clock, and guys will keep shooting the basketball and let you back in. But as a kid watching, it's fun to say, hey, we're never out of it until this thing's over.
You know, you just look at that game and you think, at what point did the Nuggets think, uh-oh? Because we hear Karl Malone say, okay, at this point I realized we had a chance. But you know, at some point the Nuggets started looking over their shoulder, checking the clock, checking the score, and thinking, uh-oh.
I think as a player, you can feel that momentum just switch. It doesn't matter if it's a point or two. And then sometimes you're thinking, hey, all we need is a couple of jumpers to fall. But that ball gets a little heavier. Things get a little tougher, and the Jazz made a great run that night.
Well, they did, and you've got a team like the Nuggets at some point saying, hey, we got this. We're up by this much, 30-some points, and you know, let's just cruise from here, and that's when that switch happens.